All right, now we're fully live. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan. I don't know if you guys saw that preview, but I was just chatting about the UFC fights tonight and Reddit and, that whole ordeal of the large-scale misinformation, that's on Reddit. I was basically just saying, like, yeah, the platform is a great N=1 reporting system, the best on the web, no question, right? But it's just there's a lot of repeating of inaccurate stuff, which I just don't think is great. As we get people in here, we will have a good degree of questions to answer and topics to discuss. So let me think of what's been relevant to me. Obviously, TRT. I mean, that's been such a huge part of my life over the last 3.5 months. I've been having a lot of discussions with clients on whether or not they need to take either aromasin or anastrozole. These are aromatase inhibitors. And, I just more and more I'm seeing the necessity to do that for a fraction of men that cannot lower their dose, change their frequency, or change the administration method in a way that balances the, total testosterone to serum ultrasensitive E2 ratio in a way which gives them positive benefits from TRT. So yeah, it's been, whereas what I definitely have seen in some of these people that I've been consulting is that if we microdose in an infrequent capacity, something like anastrozole, but monitor where the estrogen goes from there and don't get on a regular schedule of taking it, but take it on an as needed basis, that a good degree of people's inability to notice all the positive libido and sexual benefits from TRT basically gets erased, and they can finally actually feel and notice subjectively and functionally the benefits of TRT. So that's just been one of the really prominent things in kind of my consulting side of the business, which has been really, really interesting. I almost feel like a good degree of guys have been brainwashed on this, like, you don't want to inhibit estrogen kind of webosphere echo chamber. And there's truth behind a lot of the things that become popular because, very low degrees of estradiol are not particularly cardiovascularly healthy. And you got estrogen receptors everywhere, including in cardiac tissue and obviously in your brain and elsewhere. But, it is the case that some men on TRT are just going to need to manage estrogen. And hey, look, that's established endocrinology. You have to have the capacity to sort of step back and look at what may be new and somewhat validated, but also you got to be skeptical of things that became very popular and they're new, and that they counter traditional science. Not to say that new things aren't good and we shouldn't be looking at those things. The scientific community, the biohacking community, we definitely should be analyzing them, experimenting, etc. But you've got to trust tried and true, particularly because it has the most research and data behind it. So that's been one of the really prevalent kind of topics or something, in my consulting practices. TRT and aromatase inhibitors, interestingly. I did take a stack this morning. I took a little bit of Alcar, 300 milligrams, 250 milligrams of oxiracetam, 250 milligrams of aniracetam. I did not take a choline source because I had 3 eggs with my breakfast. So I'm in a great place. I'm energized, brain's working good. I'm compartmentalized. And so I'm excited to do the stream. If you guys got questions that just jumped on here, hope you're doing well. Happy Saturday. Hope you're excited for the fights tonight. You can post your questions in the chat. I will read them aloud. I will get them on the screen and we can begin. Let me just get all my details straight here. Where again does this go? Oh, I think I put it going to the desktop. Yeah, cool. Are you guys watching the fights tonight? Who do you have winning? I was saying earlier that the Adesanya Pereira fight is going to be, like, I'm excited about it intellectually because I want to see, like, if Adesanya stays away from the pocket and just executes his typical fight of keeping distance and then being extremely surgical with strikes. I think it's going to be a really, really good fight. Obviously, if Pereira gets in there and they get into the phone booth, then there's he's got a puncher's chance, right? He is a a weight bullying type of dude. I mean, I think he probably walked around at 210, 220 and manages to get down to 185. I don't know how the fuck someone does that healthfully, but it's going to be an interesting fight nonetheless. Odie says, hey, Ryan, I'm on some Uridine right now and feeling super productive and laser focused. Yes, Uridine is, it's just a powerful compound. And what was it again? What was that? Yeah. I've been using Uridine on and off for probably about 12 years or so, I want to say. It's always been very, very powerful and very, very noticeable. I mean, I've never taken Uridine and been like, I don't notice it kind of thing. It's just a very, very strong compound. I don't know why that screenshot didn't save. It should have. Bing. Uh-oh. I think we're having screenshot issues here. Unless it's like automatically going where it needs to go. That would be wonderful. I don't think it is, though. Doesn't look like it, bro. All right, bear with me for a sec. I gotta figure out where my screenshots are going because they're certainly not popping up anywhere. I wonder if the Draw app needs to be. I don't think it's Paint, right? Or Sketch. Snip and Sketch. Maybe that'll work. Give that a shot. Yeah, Odie, Uridine is powerful. I mean, it's just it's a super nootropic in its own right because of its ability to help you release the catecholamines and its ability to engage in the process of neurogenesis, which is very, very cool. I mean, very rarely do you have a nootropic that acutely affects you positively, but then also, gives you long-term benefits. And that's where I think Uridine kind of comes into play and beats a lot of the other nootropics, definitely. Yeah, so for some reason I can't save my screenshots. I'm not sure why that is. Why would that be? Bizarre. DJ Millen is asking, should you take nootropics or can you take nootropics with Dihexa? You can. I mean, I think you can take cholinergics and get away with it. You really wouldn't want to because you're using Dihexa. I mean, there's an acute use for it. You can get some acute benefits, mainly memory and functional processing. But aside from that, you're wanting to repair neurons and neuronal activity, potentially upregulate receptor sites. It's largely a reparative type of nootropic. Disposable Hero saying, think Masvidal is getting towards the end. Yeah, definitely. Jorge Masvidal, who's fighting tonight in UFC, 289 or something. Yeah, I mean, his run's probably over. I mean, he's a journeyman, and look, he's done well. He's done well. He's done great for himself in terms of popularity. But other than that, I mean, I don't see him winning a fight against Gilbert Burns. That's for damn sure. I just have no idea why my screenshot technology is malfunctioning. So we really can't put the stuff on the screen that you guys are asking. Christopher Hansen is asking, how much BDNF boosting supplements help with hard cognitive tasks? I'm an engineer and work on hard cognitive tasks. Can it make me smarter? Well, smarter, it can make you smarter acutely, sure. If you're defining smarter as what people don't understand about smarter is it's as a very bland term, right? It's nebulous. There's no definition necessarily for it. It assumes you get smarter longer term. What smarter really means in acute context is you are able to execute the brain functions associated with performing well in something like, I don't know, you have a Rubik's Cube or you're doing a puzzle or you're doing math or writing an essay. And when you're optimizing the neurophysiology behind your ability to execute those tasks, then yes, you're smarter in those acute periods. Dihexa, by nature, like things that affect BDNF, like Dihexa or Noopept or Alcar, even over long term, has an ability to express nerve growth factor and other neurotrophic factors. Yeah, these things can improve some of your cognitive faculties in a seemingly semi-permanent way, which, if you look at that from the layman's perspective, means you're smarter. In those temporary places, those temporary positions. Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to just do it that way. Oh, they went in videos? That's bizarre. We'll just save to desktop. All right, cool. So I think I was able to figure out this whole screenshot dilemma. And we'll put the latest question on the screen. Cool. Like sitting here multitasking, working on that in the background. That's the aniracetam. Okay, so Unite Santini says, I saw you on a video stacking with modafinil. Do you have one for armodafinil? If not, what can I take to avoid sleep issues or other supplements on armodafinil? Yeah, the run-of-the-mill stuff. I mean, melatonin would be useful. Glycine would be useful. Picamilin would be useful as well. I have touched on armodafinil. I mean, it's basically the pharmacokinetics, which is the absorbability and the kind of bloodstream distribution of armodafinil is slightly faster than regular modafinil. And so that's kind of where you get a bit of a faster onset and perhaps for some people reportedly better subjective feels. So, I mean, that's essentially what you're looking at. I don't prefer the more kind of seemingly biological available analogs over regular modafinil. I prefer regular modafinil because I know what it does. I know what my doses are. And so, I don't really see the necessity to fuss with other analogs. Now, I have taken FL, modafinil, and hydrafinil. And if there are other potent analogs, I think armodafinil is really what you're looking at. And yeah, they're potent. They're noticeable. I mean, they're interesting. I just like, from my vendor, I'm getting 200 milligram tablets of modafinil. And I just like the simplicity of that, using a pill cutter to cut it in sometimes fourths, but largely in halves, and then dosing, accordingly. That's kind of just how I think about it. Good question, though. Thoughts on exogenous ketones while not doing keto? Let me see if this will work correctly. No, I guess I don't really have the whole keto thing. I've not loved for a long time, and that is because it was very popular, and anything regarding keto was very popular in 2013, 2014 timeframe. It's in fact when all of this started. The first iteration obviously was Atkins and the Atkins diet. Question is thoughts on exogenous ketones. I went keto for about 9 months in 2014. And, admittedly believed some of the preliminary research and anecdotals. And that's one of the things I learned, biohacking over the years is some of the newer stuff that comes out looks very convincing, gets very dogmatic, gets parroted through the internet, but usually not entirely accurate. So I ended up with large-scale dysbiosis in my intestinal tract, which I measured by actually measuring the microbiome and the various microbes. I had a complete depletion of bifidobacterium, it's just fucking scary if you understand what bifidobacterium does regarding histamine degradation and a few other things. I had complete tanking in serum aldosterone. That's an adrenal hormone. And I also had some pretty negative effects on total testosterone. And then a continued dysregulation of electrolyte signaling for, I forget how long, but sometime thereafter, which I had to recover. So that's why I kind of, understand that at least very aggressive continuous keto is not a good idea for most people, despite what you may have heard or read. If you're not an advanced biohacker and know how to manage some of the other signaling systems that will go awry in keto, then you're going to have a hard time eventually. Remember, when I say things negative toward keto, I'm nearly 2 decades into studying all this, have done keto, have learned all the lessons, used to fall for the dogma. So I'm 20 years ahead of some of you who think, keto is good. Just remember that. Otherwise, exogenous ketones, probably useful for brain performance and brain function. Don't know a whole lot about them otherwise, just because I've stayed away from keto after learning what it really is, which is a fad diet that is not healthy for most people. Nameless is asking a question about long COVID, so let's answer that. That seems to be such a prominent, somewhat of a prominent requests lately, as well as look, a lot of people that are dealing with it. Frankly, I had some funky issues post COVID that, thankfully, because of my understanding of biohacking, I was able to manage and get under control. It's large scale inflammation. But yeah, I mean, that condition, COVID or long COVID, or what is it, post-acute sequelae of COVID-19 or of SARS-CoV-2, that is a complicated condition in which you are in a constant insult from inflammatory cytokines, which damages the endothelium, inhibits neurotransmitter synthesis. There's even some newer research that suggests that one particular element of the spike and the furin cleavage site binds directly to nicotinic cholinergic receptors, which is terrible. If you think about it, it's actually really scary, because most biological war agents and snake venom, etc., are cholinergic antagonists, and they kill you. But otherwise, they just do large-scale inhibition of your brain function and your health. The cholinergic pathways heavily influence anti-inflammatory pathways. They have a direct communication with the immune system in that regard. So it's a very complex condition. Nootropics, no nootropics that I believe will be effective other than nicotine in patch format. We recently did a video on nicotine in a nootropic context, but if you have long COVID, you probably should be, and this is just an observation, not a direct recommendation, dosing nicotine, and there is published literature on that. The hypothesis is that it's displacing, this somewhat similar element of the spikes binding to the potential binding to the cholinergic receptors, and giving both brain fog alleviation from the acetylcholine perspective, as well as mediating inflammatory pathways. So nicotine in 7 milligram patches is what my first suggestion would be. Other than that, I mean, a large amount of people with long COVID seem to be dealing with a syndrome that mimics MCAS, or mast cell activation syndrome, which is histamine mediated. Basically you're either not able to degrade histamine the way that you used to, or you're pumping out too much histamine, or a combination of both. And histamine is like an allergic immunomodulatory, inflammatory response. And so the one exogenous supplement that you could take that would be useful would be a Bifidobacterium BB536, Bifidobacterium longum BB536, which will degrade large amounts of histamine. Full stop, no question. That would be my suggestion for long COVID. In the meantime, yeah, you got to eat an anti-inflammatory diet for sure. You don't want to be adding to the already burdened system via large-scale inflammation. And look, I mean, there are plenty of other things I think you can do, but those would be my primary suggestions. I think exercise, because there's some overlap between CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, as well, and long COVID. They are not one and the same, however. But yeah, exercise in a graded capacity, moving up slowly, is warranted to tolerability. But also remember, if you get negatives from exercise and go, that means I can't exercise. Well, exercise is producing an inflammatory response. It doesn't mean you shouldn't exercise. It means that you have increased the inflammatory load. So if you decrease it aggressively through scientifically validated things, you'll probably be able to tolerate exercise a lot better. Yes, NAC can be effective, but it's only potentially addressing one element of the disease, which is the microclotting. It's not going to address much of the other disease, which needs to be addressed. Great question, though. Let's see if there are any other relevant questions. Iron Addicts is asking a question about 9-MeBC and bromontane, so let's see if we can get that on the screen. What are my thoughts about using bromontane, 9-MeBC, and tyrosine for bodybuilders? Okay, so this is the question. What are your thoughts on bromontane, 9-MeBC? These are dopaminergics, and tyrosine for bodybuilders to upregulate dopamine after they've done an anabolic androgenic steroid cycle and follow a TRT or PCT. Good question. Yeah, because I mean, you're with high levels of androgens, you're in a sympathetic mode dominantly in terms of nervous system function, and so you are thereby forcing large-scale noradrenaline and dopamine release. you know, in the midbrain and mesocortical limbic areas of your brain. And so you're kind of used to that dopaminergic and adrenergic state. And so when you get off of high level steroids or even high doses of TRT, you're going to end up with less release of those catecholamines. So I think you really have the best three compounds to address this: bromontane, 9-MeBC, and tyrosine. The way that I would dose this is I would cycle 9-MeBC for 40 days at 20 to 30 milligrams. While you're doing that, I would dose bromontane at 30 milligrams. Now, this is going to be different for different people, but those are rough ranges that should be useful. And then leave tyrosine out of it and see if that makes you feel better. Because you're going to be upregulating all of the, you know, kind of the chemistry involved in synthesizing the catecholamines by doing that. In addition, though, you know, you ought to do some Googling about which foods contain tyrosine and or phenylalanine and consume a lot of them. Beef would be one, bananas are another. If that doesn't help you, then would be the time to bring in tyrosine, because that's telling you that you don't have enough raw precursor for catecholamine synthesis, which is tyrosine. You could also skip the tyrosine step in producing dopamine by just using Mucuna. But I think what you've got is a good strategy. Just try to follow some semblance of that protocol that I suggested. I think you'll be in a good, healthy place. You're just not firing catecholamines like you're used to, and so that's probably one of the reasons you're feeling crappy. I'd also look at your T3, free T3, T4 thyroid hormones. Make sure they're in check. If they're low, treat them either with medication or with tyrosine, selenium, iodine, because then you're going to be building more of them, and that should be useful in that particular case. DJ Wisdom, good morning. Everybody else, good morning. Hope you guys are doing great. As you see on the screen, I only have about 30 or so bottles left of Torque. That's just an old graphic at 30% off. But there's still bottles left, so you can use the coupon code 30TORQUE, livecortex.com, and get Torque for cheaper. I took Torque yesterday, but I didn't take it today. I'll probably take it tomorrow because I know I'm going to be up late watching the fights tonight. It's just like predictably good brain energy, man. Very, very epic nootropic. Probably the most purchased stack on the web. You can do it at livecortex.com. Any other questions, guys? Atropine. Wow, that sounds a little wacky. Iron Addicts, you are welcome. Hope you're doing great. Let's see if I missed any questions. Nope, I don't think I did. Yeah. Back to the fights. Masvidal's going to get wrecked. I just think so. He looks like a very frail dude, you know. I think he's been talking a lot of shit. He went and sucker punched Colby. It's like, come on, man. I mean, you know, why do that? He's just kind of a bully, but doesn't even really deserve to be a bully. It's not like you're, I don't know, John Jones or something, who just comes back and beats one of the best guys in the heavyweight division. You know, if you're gonna talk smack, son, you know, you gotta be able to back it up, bro. You got to be about that life, sir. All right, guys, those of you that are on here, if you have any questions, post them in the chat. Feel free to super chat them. We'll put more time and attention to them if you super chat them. I think you can also you can thank me or something and pay a little bit of money. If you guys want to do that, support the channel, go for it. Those buttons should be publicly available. Otherwise, yeah, I'm excited for the fights. I'm just pumped. You know, I like every card. So when the prelims come on, that's it. I'm excited. I'm like, all right, let's go. It's fight night. We're kind of getting into that zone of being interested in fighting. They usually have on YouTube UFC fight marathons, like free fight marathons. So they'll be displaying all of the previous fights leading up to this from the individuals in the main card. Somebody's asking a question about 9-MeBC and neurotoxicity. The relevance to neurotoxicity with 9-MeBC. Wait, let me screenshot that because this is actually an important point. Bottom line is there's no research to suggest that it would be neurotoxic. The neurotoxic agent or element, beta carboline, is a different chemical than 9-MeBC. It was an initial assumptive postulation someone that probably doesn't have a rigorous scientific background made, and then it got parroted on Reddit, which happens. I just did a video about that yesterday. So, nope, not neurotoxic as far as anyone can tell. I would have had some some notably intrusive responses, feedback from clients over the last 4 years that I've been helping clients restore dopamine with 9-MeBC, in the range of people having large-scale brain fog, which is ultimately what neurotoxicity ends up causing, is like an inhibition in your ability to think, as well as a sort of a sickish-like feeling in your brain, like a mild headache, sick feeling, and I've never gotten any reports of that. So anecdotally, zero toxicity that we can measure or see happening. Scientifically, it doesn't make sense. Stay off of Reddit, or understand that what you're reading on Reddit is, parroted information, and not always accurate, disproportionately inaccurate, in fact. DJ Wisdom is asking, do I take acetyl L-carnitine, which is Alcar, regularly? The answer to that question is yes. For the longest time, so I'll get that question on the screen, I was taking 400 milligrams of acetyl L-carnitine daily. Whoa, bro. Oh, man. No, just like completely disappeared. Oh, I think it's on the right side. Bizarre. Oh, now it's upside down. Rad. That is so cool. I'm so happy that OBS decided to do that. Thank you. That's the question. Alcar regularly. Yeah, I was taking 400 milligrams every day for the longest time, probably a year. And then for one reason or another, I just stopped taking it every day, but then still take it a lot, But you know what I think it was torque, because I take torque, I don't know, these days I'm getting lazy, right? It's like 3 or 4 times a week I'm taking it and switching between other stuff. And torque has a hefty degree, or at least a healthy degree for my brain and for most people's brains, of Alcar in it. So I'm getting the Alcar when I take torque. So yes, I take it regularly. I think it's a very, very potent stimulant for some people. It's not stimulating, but it will give them kind of an opening up of their brain, like a noticeable computing power increase, which is fascinating. It does a lot of really cool things. I was saying before, chronic use of Alcar both induces the expression of nerve growth factor, which is reparative protein and will help you to build new neurons, and removes this toxic substance that builds up in your brain over time called lipofuscin. It removes lipofuscin. It's one of the best nootropics in the world, Alcar. It definitely is, in its various forms. For those that get anxiety, you need to lower your dose or take theanine with it. For those that can't tolerate it, I feel sorry for you, because it's very, very, it's just awesome in every way. Miko Biz, what nootropics can be taken every day? Not many. Teacrine, Alcar, Mucuna, citicoline in low doses. You really want to stay away from racetams daily. All the methylxanthines can be taken daily. Teacrine, theobromine, caffeine, obviously. Nootropic stacks, torque. Cortex I wouldn't take daily, just because you don't want to continually optimize dopaminergic receptor density. You want to do it 4 or 5 times a week and then take a 2-day break. Other than that, the non-neurotransmitter modifying stuff I think can be taken daily. Things like vinpocetine. Vinpocetine is an oxygen and blood flow optimizing compound neurologically. That's very useful. However, there are clinical papers on older people, admittedly, that are taking in these trials aniracetam and oxiracetam for like 16, 18 months every day at medium to high doses, and no reported side effects. So toxicity wise, I think the racetams can be taken every day, definitely, but you're going to run into a tolerance of the effects eventually. And so that's why I think they're useful to cycle. Good question. Should Alcar be taken with food or empty stomach? Empty or light stomach? That would be my suggestion. Other questions, guys. I think we had a question about caffeine and pre-workout, so let's see if we can get that on the screen. Cool. Question is there a combo of nootropics as a pre-workout without caffeine that you recommend? Yeah, torque would be a good stack to take, but it's got theobromine and teacrine, which are methylxanthines. However, you should not be as potently overstimulated, like jittery caffeine-like stimulated when you take Torque versus the other stuff, versus caffeinated nootropic supplements. Other than that, yeah, I mean, anything with L-tyrosine in it, you may even do better with something like Nalt, the acetylated version of tyrosine. A little more bioabsorbability. Pharmacokinetics are slightly beneficial, right? Moving in the direction of a faster, more benefiting effect. So get some Nalt. That can be taken daily so long as it doesn't give you side effects. Other than that, I mean, yeah, there's 100 combos. If you respond well to Noopept, low dose Noopept, 5 milligrams or so, 50 or so milligrams phenylpiracetam hydrazide, very low dose choline source, 50 to 100 milligrams. That's one of my go-to gym stacks because I have focus, my brain's working better, I'm computing. I'm just into my workout more. Like I feel every movement. Like today I was deadlifting, you know what I mean? And I had taken this aniracetam stack and I noticed, I mean, this is only like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. I was noticing like, my muscles and how I haven't deadlifted in a while, right? So I feel it stretching and moving different muscle groups that I haven't worked in a while. And I think cognitively or consciously, I was like more aware of that because of the nootropic stacks, which is super interesting. Disposable Hero, thank you for the $5. If you guys want to donate, you can ask a question and I'll answer it, or you can just, hit the super chat button and send it over. That would be really cool. We don't even really use that money. That money kind of just sits in a Google account and then they send it to the business bank account every month or something like that. But it ultimately aids in the business and inventory and stuff like that. We have a large-scale Cortex inventory coming up. There's a new formula for Cortex. Those of you that take the Cortex stack, that's coming up probably 2-3 months or something. Same formula, but with the addition of the methylxanthine, it just makes it more powerful. I mean, I took the new Cortex stack, which, again, will be available in a couple months. Wednesday, I got like 6 hours of work done. It's insane. It's going to be very powerful. So, new label as well. That's coming out in a couple months. Look forward to that. All right. Any other questions? Yes, I think Noopept is good as a pre-workout. If you go to the gym, some degree of your ability to push through your workouts and really pay attention to what you're doing, and like even do things like slow down when you're lifting weights. Like, I have a tendency, or I used to have a tendency to move too quickly doing bench or incline press or something, but you slow it down, you're adding more resistance, this whole negative resistance thing. And that's going to help you build muscle better. Speaking of the gym, I'm now finally back into a bulk where I'm going to be eating little amounts of excessive calories. I'm not going over substantially, but I need to grow. I've gotten lean and tone, but now I really, really want to grow. And so unfortunately I've got to bring in the calories. So I'm going to be looking a little puffy, little Stay Puft Marshmallow in the next several weeks. I'm going to approach it with some days in a surplus, some days in a deficit, but I've reached sort of a muscle mass peak with the caloric intake that I've been engaging, which is mostly maintenance and then deficits, very few surpluses. So I'm going to have to stuff my face, and kind of looking forward to it, man. Yes, I would. I think you're going to like Torque. Yeah, if you haven't tried it, you'll love the stack. Kyron Hyman, I'm really not sure what you're referring to here about non-sleep rest. Get that on the screen and discuss. Okay, so this is a bit of an odd question. Maybe you guys can help me interpret. Is non-sleep deep rest effective to restore motivation? Well, yeah, sure. It should be. I mean, every time I get overworked cognitively, whether that's induced partially by a nootropic stack or otherwise, if I do some wacky experiment with dosing too much testosterone or something, then yeah, I may feel a little sympathetically overdriven, in which case resting helps. One of the things that helps my brain performance immensely when I'm in a state where I recognize it's not functional, which is very rare. Because I always have a nicotine patch on, or I'm dosing a nootropic. Like I'm always optimized at some level. Is on YouTube there's many of these, but there's this one woman, I think her name is Joanne, and she does panic attack talk downs, where she'll talk you through a panic attack. But it's very useful for the average person to get in an alpha brainwave state, which is going to profoundly reset things for the ensuing 2 to 3 hours, where she goes through breathing exercises and a few other really interesting things that you can do with your body and your posture, which are targeted again toward reducing, the pinnacle of an anxiety attack, but also are profoundly useful for restoring your energy. So I think that doing stuff like that, anything contemplative, is going to be useful. Because, you're taking what is otherwise active. When you're in those crazy states where your brain isn't functioning well and there's too much maybe going on, there's all kind of excitatory neurotransmission. If you can, biohackers look at this stuff visually in their heads. Whenever I talk about any of this, I'm picturing it, right? I'm making pictures of what I've seen in graphs and what I understand about molecular biology and these kind of things. And so, it's useful to... Why am I getting buffering issues? Christ, this always happens. I think the stream is fine. Stream looks fine. I'm just going to ignore all of YouTube's suggestions to change something. Peptides, not really. I hope I finished my last thought on non-deep sleep. All right, let me get into this peptide thing. I think the only peptide that I have appreciable experience with is PT141. Very, very powerful stuff. There are some other peptides that I think I'm going to be experimenting with very soon. Peptides that are affecting gonadotropins. So I'm looking into bringing in either gonadorelin or kisspeptin. Those are basically gonadotropin releasing hormone mimetics. They basically mimic the action or replace, the top chain of the, HPTA, the hypothalamus pituitary kind of testosterone or gonadal axis, in telling or instructing the pituitary gland to pump out LH and FSH, travel the testes, make tests, make sperm. And kisspeptin and gonadorelin act in a way which mimics GnRH from the hypothalamus's point of view. And those are peptides. So yeah, I will be experimenting with those to see about jumpstarting endogenous tests, because I'm on TRT, and regaining fertility, whatever fertility may have dropped off since I've been on TRT. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm looking into. As far as I can tell, they're they're obviously not as effective as something like HCG, Clomid, etc., HMG, but I want to see I want to actually quantify the degree to which they're effective for, spermatogenesis. Like, I'm going to test sperm mobility and these kind of things. So that'll be a deep dive for probably 6 months out or something, because I'm going to need some time to look into it all. DJ Wisdom, thank you for the $20. It looks like you got possibly a question here. Really appreciate your super chats, guys. If you want to donate to the channel, do it. If you don't, totally cool. I still love you, but we'll give your question, etc., more attention and more of a deep dive if you do. Let's get your question on the screen. Okay, DJ Wisdom, really appreciate the $20. Thank you so much for your question and your super chat. It goes, just want to thank you for all the useful knowledge and excellent products. Welcome. It's what I do. It's what I love doing. I live for it. It's like somebody asked me recently, why I'm always productive or doing stuff. Like, my worst nightmare is being a flagrant, arrogant normie who doesn't do anything. Who thinks leisure is the pinnacle of life. I just love doing this stuff. Do you find that PCPs underprescribe TRT for middle-aged men? Wow, what a fucking question. Straight off the bat, yes, they definitely do. They definitely do. And so what this is general practitioners or doctors, whatever, underprescribe testosterone. I think for men that are obviously suffering, I have an endless list. I'd be rich if it was a nickel each time, of guys that say, I went to my doc, I'm having low libido, my energy sucks, my erection quality is failing, I can't recover from the gym like I used to, my body composition is changing negatively, all these things. And then doc runs their labs on testosterone, and they're at 400 or 500 nanograms per deciliter, lower end of the reference range, free test. in some cases higher than should be in terms of the most optimal testosterone to estrogen ratio of estrogen, sitting at like 25 when their total T is at 500 or something. That's not good, right? But doc goes, hey, you're in range, we can't prescribe TRT. Happens all the time. Now, from a conservative perspective, or from a medical professionals conservative perspective, a lot of them are still somewhat stuck on this issue of potential cardiovascular issues with exogenous testosterone, which has largely been debunked and is also modifiable via diet and lifestyle. So that could be one reason why that they're apprehensive to prescribe, or they underprescribe. Otherwise, I think you have doctors who don't specialize in endocrinology, which is most of them, unfortunately. So it's like they look at themselves and maybe other patients and go, well, I feel fine and they feel fine, and their numbers aren't necessarily 800 plus on total tests, so you'll be fine. Whereas the truth is, guys that are between 30, younger obviously too though, and 37, that are not functioning optimally in the sexual department, the recovery department, the strength department, the metabolic functioning or efficiency department, like they just gain weight easy and things of this nature, not only could benefit from, but probably need testosterone replacement therapy, or to otherwise manage their testosterone. These days, there's so many insults from everything from your plastic bottle to your whatever, to medications that you're taking, insults on to ideological insults on testosterone, which is ridiculous. That, younger men need it more, right? I mean, men at younger ages tend to need it at higher levels now. It's funny that you asked this question, Wisdom, because this is something that I'm going to do a deep dive about. Like, I'm going to do a documentary or something about this, like a literal documentary that I hope gets millions of views, because it's a real thing. I get those people as clients, but I also see countless anecdotals on Reddit and elsewhere of people that are like, I'm having all these issues with sexual function, etc. I went to doc, testosterone's in range, they won't do anything for me. It's a real problem. It's a real issue. Now, there are clinics, assuming you're 38 and above, that's usually the marker, the deadline, or like the kind of, age, that will treat symptoms even if your testosterone's in range, in a reasonable range, and not deficient. And those are clinics like Male Excel is one of them. Obviously, TRT Nation, Matrix Hormones. I don't know if Defy Medical or Merrick Health does that, but probably, because they're very popular. So that's a really good thing. Looking into some of those clinics. I don't know how old you are. Middle-aged guys. Yeah, I mean, if you're middle-aged, then yeah. I mean, if you're in your 30s, you probably should get with one of those clinics. One observation of something that some men have done in that particular case to get below threshold is to take Clomid and then take HCG for a month, 2 months, which will shut you down, shut your natural gonadotropin function down, and then get off of it. And you probably feel like shit for a little bit, but you're going to have tanked testosterone levels, at which point, most clinics and most doctors would really have no choice, but to prescribe your testosterone, or at least they should. So yeah, I think that this is a big problem. It's very underprescribed. Doctors are very conservative about it, and a lot of doctors just don't have the endocrinological background to understand the necessity for men to have adequate levels of testosterone. If you're sitting at 500 but don't feel great in all these departments, you should probably be at 800, 900. That's why. And if you can't get prescribed TRT, look into every natural strategy imaginable and play it safely, and try to do the best you can in the meantime. Really appreciate the $20. Thank you so much for the super chat. Great question. Huge topic that I'll be discussing. Yaya is asking a question about bupropion and Ambien. I will do my best to try to answer this in the best way possible, considering what little time we have, corresponding to the super chat. Thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate it. All right, so here's a question about bupropion, which I believe, let's see. I just want to understand the mechanism of action. Norepinephrine and dopamine reuptake inhibitor. Antagonist of several nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. That's not good. Okay, so basically NDRI is what that is. And then Ambien stopped working to keep me asleep. Yeah, I don't have any ideas for that, unfortunately. I mean, that's in the pharmaceutical purview. I'm sure I have ideas that could tackle it, but that would be more of a, if you want to book a consult with me, I'm sure we could get it squared away, but I couldn't give you advice like without fact finding and understanding a lot more about your situation to resolve this. Like, you know, why are you on the bupropion? You know, can you get off it? Ideally, you'd want to try to move off of it. I mean, you got dopamine reuptake inhibition and adrenergic reuptake inhibition happening. That's going to prevent, you know, you from sleeping. You're in a sympathetic dominant state all the time. You know, you're not going to sleep well. That's your first problem, and you got to fix that problem however you can. If you'd like to book an email consult, do that. If you want to book a call, then that'll give us more time. And more fact-finding to get to the bottom of what you should do. Merrick Health is restricted about TRT. Interesting. Been with them and you're in your 30s. Cool. Yes, Vigor Steve's a great guy. Smart dude. Ultra big person. Vigorous. I could imagine it in person. You know, if I ever get to Thailand, I'll obviously go hang out with Steve, but he's like he's a big individual. He's a big human. Cool guy, smart guy. One of the last dudes on YouTube talking about biohacking that's like has standards to back up what he's saying and will always be ruthlessly scientific, which I really love. Adventure Kids Club, thank you so much for the $10. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat. Asking a question about Hydra 21. Yep, love that stuff. I'd like to try for working memory and task switching. I respond to PRL and microdose of aniracetam. Comment on it. Well, 10 milligrams of that stuff, and I'm usually wanting to do stuff that I've been dreading or putting off for weeks. Anything that's really cognitively intensive. Like, you know, I'm writing the TRT guide right now, the Go on TRT guide. It's called Getting on TRT. Explains everything you need to know about it. That'll be available right around the 10th. This coming week, it'll be a product that you guys can buy. It's a downloadable PDF, a guide, a book. Probably about 40 pages long. Close to 50 pages. And I've taken Hydra 21 to write large swaths of that guide, you know, because it's very helpful in that kind of cerebrally intensive, episodic memory retrieval, long-term memory retrieval facets of brain function. So that's what it's useful for. Some of the computer programmers, mobile app developers that I've worked with in a consulting capacity, I've had on intermittent usage of Hydra 21, which has proven extremely beneficial for not only overall productivity, but solving problems in the, you know, in the programming department, finding the root cause of breakages in the app, like there's a fucking caret missing somewhere, or etc. Some code is referring to something that isn't there, whatever. So it's a very useful compound. Yeah, comparable to PRL. Comparable to the acute effects of Dihexa, interestingly, and very useful for memory-centric, cerebrally intensive brain stuff. 5 to 10 milligrams is the average dose. I don't really know if you can take it daily. I wouldn't suggest it because it's a research chemical, all things considered. So I don't know that there would be any negatives to continually taking it. I wouldn't do that myself. We need more clinical data on it, probably more anecdotal data on it too. But other than that, I mean, if anyone's looking for a good memory-centered compound that you can stack with something like teocrine or theobromine, any methylxanthine, caffeine included, to give you functional computing power and energy, it would be Hydra 21. Thank you so much for the $10. That is a great question and a pretty killer compound. Terensek, you are welcome for asking your question. Thank you so much for the $5. Really, really appreciate it. You guys can super chat if you want, or you can ask questions for free. Keep in mind, if you super chat, I'll spend some more time on it and kind of see if I can do as much of a deep dive as possible. Get your questions answered. Think of it this way too. If you super chat and get a question answered with a deeper dive, you don't have to pay $89 or $165 or $285 for a call. You can just, you know, or consulting, you can just actually get it done here. You are welcome for answering your questions. It's what I do. It's what I like to do. Thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Anything else here that I missed? never heard of Maximus Tribe. They claim to sell a prescription capsule that stimulates natural testosterone production. Let's look at the ingredients. Vitamin A, vitamin D3, K2, B vitamins, magnesium, zinc. Yeah. Usual suspects, not particularly effective. If you have large-scale testosterone issues, not going to be effective. That's one thing about supplements for making you make more testosterone is that if you have large-scale gonadotropin release problems stemming from the hypothalamus, or you have some sort of pituitary hormone secretion deficiency, then no amount of natural intervention is really going to help you. That's kind of one of those misconceptions. People think, oh, Tongkat will help, and it's just this general idea. Like, if there's something else large scale wrong, Tongkat is not going to help you, nor is maca, nor is, anything, with the exception of potentially Fedosia agrestis. Limit Break Ultra bought some torque. Great content. Appreciate it. I hope you love the stack. That stuff lights me up like a Christmas tree. I will have to take it tomorrow because I'm going to be up till at least 1 a.m. watching the fights tonight, which I don't like. Whenever I know I'm going to not sleep as good, I'm like, shit, I'm not going to sleep as good. Like, it bothers me, bro. I want to every day, dude. I want to, like, I'm so rigorous about it to the point where, like, if I go out to dinner with a chick, I'm not staying there past 10 p.m. And she's like, oh, I'd like to stay and have more wine. I'm like, yeah, fuck, go ahead. Go ahead, honey. You can wine all fucking night, but I am going home to see my cats, and I need to sleep. So I'll take torque tomorrow to remedy what'll be first night's bad sleep in a long time. Potentially. Because I'm going to want to get up at 6 and go to the gym. Synergy FX. Thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate your inquisition, your questions, etc. I've tried bulk supplements, theobromine, with little to no success. Any other brands? I don't think it's the brand of theobromine that you're having an issue with or a lack of positive response, because they're a good brand. And I have their theobromine literally downstairs in my kind of nootropics. It's like a big giant Tupperware container with a fan blowing in it. That's how I store my stuff. Most of it anyway. And I have their theobromine and I take it, occasionally. I'm usually taking torque for that, and it's effective. If you're taking a stimulant to try to get a brain performance effect and it's not working, you got to look at a couple things. What is causing you to have not good brain function where you want the stimulant? Because that thing could inhibit the ability for the stimulant to be effective, right? Whatever it is. That's usually large scale inflammation and a disruption of neurotransmitter synthesis, or invasion into neurons and brain tissue of viruses. I don't know if you got COVID or whatever, or invasion into brain tissue of cytokines. Additionally, adrenal hormone output problems, thyroid hormone output problems, low testosterone, all those things. If they're bad enough, you're not going to notice certain stimulant nootropics. The brand Bulk Supplements is a good brand. And again, I frequently take their supplements, right? Because they have bulk powder, it's cheap, it's easy, and that's kind of it. 50 to 75 milligrams is somewhat reasonable. You try taking up to 100, 120, see how you fare. But address underlying problems if you have them, definitely. Those of you that don't know or haven't tried Torque, this is probably the best time. We're running out of this the amount of bottles that I set aside for the special. I just extended it last night to 50. We sold 20 overnight. And so we got about 30 bottles left of Torque at 30% off. So if you want to try the stack, do it now, 30%. There's 30 bottles left, and now 28 because we just sold 2 in the last 2 minutes. So coupon code is 30, Torque, livecortex.com. It'll take you about 3 minutes. You'll be happy you bought the stack. Very, very powerful, strong, noticeable nootropic. Get it at livecortex.com. Any other questions, guys? It's a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh. I think the weather is like pushing 60, which is great. It's pretty much spring. We'll have some rainy, maybe some cold days, whatever. I think the frost is largely done. So I'm excited about that. I got a dual-sided cat backpack where I've got one cat in the front and one cat on my back. And I'm going to take my cats to the North Shore. There's a Pirates game, I think, today in Pittsburgh here. So it'll be a lot of lads, a lot of ladies. We're gonna go chick watch, me and my cats, over on the North Shore here in a little bit. I'm actually pumped to do that. So that's what's going on with me. Otherwise, yeah, ready for the fight Tonight's going to be a cheat night, so I'm going to order some pizza and some breadsticks. I'm really looking forward to it. Really, really looking forward to it. I don't love the rest of the main card, but, you know, Masvidal, Burns, Adesanya, Pereira. It's going to be a great fight. Great fight, great night, friends. All right, looks like the questions have slowed down, so I guess I'll kill the stream. We will do another stream next Saturday, I believe. There's nothing going on. Either way, the the YouTube kind of thumbnail will be available to tell you to get notified of the streams when they come up. You'll see it like a day prior, kind of like this one. That seems to help more people get on, at least know that the stream is coming. So yeah, it'll be 10 a.m. Eastern time next Saturday. I want to make a routine of doing these on Saturday. So look forward to that. Otherwise, I have a list